In a scandal that shatters royal reserve, Princess and has done the unthinkable, dragged Camilla's son, Tom Parker Bowles, into a Scottish court. The charge? Allegedly using Balmoral Castle's private grounds for an unauthorized commercial venture. What began as a family disagreement over a cookbook photo shoot has exploded into a legal firestorm. Witnesses claim Tom was seen directing a crew past heritage-listed gates without approval. Palace insiders whisper of a decades-old rivalry reignited. Security logs show and staff repeatedly denied access, yet the shoot went ahead. Now, with hidden drone footage, a whistleblower's affidavit, and a cryptic text from Camilla to Tom, "Don't tell Aunt Anne," the case threatens to expose the monarchy's most guarded fault lines. This is not just property, it's power. At 5:47 a.m. on April 14, a misty Thursday in the Scottish Highlands, Balmoral Castle's security hub buzzed with the usual low-grade static of dawn patrols. Ewan Macduff, 58, head gamekeeper for 3 decades, poured his second coffee and scanned the thermal imaging monitors. Nothing unusual, just deer, a stray fox, and the cold outline of the north gate. Then the lights appeared. 2 sets of headlights, moving slowly along the private access road that cuts through the heather. That road is not on any public map. Its gate is locked year-round except for royal family use or explicit written permission from the estate office. Macduff told investigators he assumed it was a delivery for the main house until the vehicle stopped at the Old Bothy, a 19th-century stone shelter hidden in a birch grove, exactly 1.2 miles from the castle's main entrance. That bothy, Macduff would later testify, is what we call a Category Z heritage structure. It's not for decoration. It's not for storage. It is a protected space under the 1985 Estate Management Act, and its key is held by exactly 3 people: me, the King's private secretary, and Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal. Anne's name came up first in his statement. Macduff drove out in a Land Rover Defender, no lights, cutting across the eastern meadow to approach from the tree line. By 6:15 a.m., he witnessed a scene that he described in his sworn affidavit as unprofessional and frankly bizarre. A white catering truck. A black Range Rover with aftermarket tint. And a crew of 5: photographer, lighting assistant, 2 stylists, and a man in a waxed jacket who was directing the placement of a picnic table, complete with a tartan blanket and a branded hamper. That man was Tom Parker Bowles, 49, food writer, critic, and stepson to King Charles III. Macduff's audio recording, made covertly on his personal phone, a habit he says he developed after a poaching incident in 2019, captures the exchange in crisp, ambient detail. "Excuse me. This area is not open. Who authorized this?" "Morning. It's fine. Mummy cleared it." "I'm sorry, sir. I need to see documentation. The North Gate requires." Laughing, "You're Ewan, right? I've been told about you. Look, it's just photos for a brand thing. We'll be gone by 9. With respect, sir, Mummy doesn't override the Estate Act." "Who specifically said yes?" At this point, Parker Bowles stepped away, pulled out a phone, and made a 2-minute call. Macduff could not hear the other end, but he observed Parker Bowles saying twice, "He's not backing down. Tell her." A second vehicle arrived, a grey Audi A8 with diplomatic plates. A man in a dark suit exited, flashed a Royal Protection Command badge, and spoke quietly to Parker Bowles. Then he approached Macduff. "This is a royal family matter. You're to stand down. I'll note your presence. I report to Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal." "Does she know about this?" Long pause. "Continue your patrol." He walked away. The shoot resumed. By 8 a.m., the crew had photographed Parker Bowles sitting at the picnic table, holding a hamper with a hand-stitched logo reading Balmoral Bites. Behind him, the Bothy's distinctive green door and the distant spires of the castle created an unmistakable backdrop. One stylist later told police, under condition of anonymity, that Parker Bowles had a shot list pre-approved by the office, meaning Camilla's private staff, and that the tagline for the campaign was, "Where Royalty Picnics." At 8:47 a.m., Macduff made the call that changed everything. He dialed Princess Anne's private secretary directly, not the estate office, not security dispatch. Anne's protocol is famously rigid, no commercial use of Balmoral without her review. Macduff had been instructed personally, in a 2019 memo still held in evidence, that any third-party photography for profit must be vetted by my office. No exceptions. The secretary's response, according to call logs, wait there. Do not engage further. At 9:15 a.m., Parker Bowles' crew packed up. The Range Rover departed. The catering truck followed. The protection officer's Audi lingered for 4 minutes, then drove toward the south gate. At 9:32 a.m., Princess Anne's helicopter landed on the Balmoral lawn. By noon, Anne had conducted her own walkthrough of the Bothy site. She photographed the tire tracks. She noted the picnic table left behind, later found to have a small dent from a tripod leg. And she personally retrieved the security gate's electronic log from Macduff's office. That log became Exhibit A. It showed no authorized entry for Tom Parker Bowles, no booking for a commercial crew, and no notification to the estate office. However, it did show a manual override at 5:52 a.m. performed using a spare key fob assigned to a junior groundsman named Craig Morrison. Morrison was not on duty that morning. His key fob had been checked out the previous evening at 10:17 p.m. and not returned. Anne's team requested Morrison's employment file within the hour. By 3 p.m., Morrison had been placed on administrative leave. By 6 p.m., he had not answered his phone. By midnight, his flat in Ballater was empty. A separate account emerged 3 days later. Lena Odegaard, 41, a Norwegian tourist hiking the Lochnagar Trail, had been flying a consumer drone for landscape photography at approximately 6:30 a.m. the same time as the shoot. She later told police she saw people in nice clothes near the Bothy but assumed it was a private event. When she reviewed her drone's memory card after hearing news of the controversy, she found something unexpected: 47 seconds of footage showing Parker Bowles handing a rolled document to Craig Morrison. In exchange, Morrison unlocked the north gate with a physical key, not an electronic fob. Why a physical key? Asked forensic security expert Miriam Chowdhury in her analysis for this production. Because electronic fobs leave logs. A physical key leaves no trace unless someone inventories it. That tells me someone planned to hide the access method from the start. The document Morrison received has never been identified. Parker Bowles' legal team calls it a catering manifest. Anne's investigators have filed a motion to compel its production. At 8 p.m. on April 15, Craig Morrison sent a single text message to his fiancée, Sarah McKinney: "Don't look for me. I'll call when it's safe." His phone then powered off. CCTV captured him boarding the 10:17 p.m. ScotRail service from Aberdeen to London King's Cross, the train he was not scheduled to take. He wore a hoodie, sunglasses, at night, and carried one duffel bag. He has not been seen since. But his key fob? Found the next morning in a ditch 3 miles from Balmoral, wrapped in a page torn from a cookbook, specifically, Parker Bowles' Own the Year of Eating Dangerously. On that page, circled in red ink, a recipe titled The Perfect Cover. 10 days after the Northgate incident, a 38-year-old piece of legislation became the most scrutinized legal text in Britain. The 1985 Estate Management Act, EMA, passed during Margaret Thatcher's premiership, was designed to protect royal properties from encroaching commercial development. But buried in Section 14, Subsection 3, tucked between provisions about footpath rights and salmon fishing, lay a bombshell. Any commercial or promotional use of designated heritage spaces within a royal estate shall require the unanimous written consent of all 4 senior working royals holding property oversight: the monarch, or heir apparent when delegated, the Princess Royal, the Duke of York, non-voting observer, and the holder of the Balmoral Stewardship Charter. At the time of the incident, that meant King Charles III, as monarch, Prince William, heir, Princess Anne, Princess Royal, and Prince Andrew, non-voting, but required to be notified. Tom Parker Bowles, as a non-royal, had no standing whatsoever to request access. But the clause contained a second hidden layer, one that would become Anne's legal sword and Tom's potential shield. Subsection 4 read, consent may be retroactively granted if 3 of 4 voting members confirm in writing within 90 days of the incident. Such retroactive consent nullifies any trespass claim. In other words, if Charles, William, and all signed off after the fact, the entire shoot became legal. And refused to sign. On April 22, a Saturday afternoon, a server breach at a Royal Communications firm spilled 1,200 internal emails onto a public encryption forum. Among them was a message sent from Camilla's private office to ENT staff on February 3 RD, more than 2 months before the shoot. Subject: Balmoral bites, small favor from, redacted, Office of HM the Queen Consort to, redacted, Office of HRH the Princess Royal. Dear team, Her Majesty asks if Princess and would consider waiving the formal approval process for a 1-hour photo shoot at the North Bothy. This is a low-impact commercial project by Tom Parker Bowles, cookbook/brand extension. No infrastructure changes. No public announcement. A simple email acknowledgement would suffice. Many thanks. And reply, sent the same day. Subject: Balmoral bites, small favor from, Office of HRH the Princess Royal to, redacted, Office of HM the Queen Consort. Rules exist for a reason. Commercial use requires full application, environmental review, and heritage impact assessment. No shortcuts. Please advise Tom to use the standard form. APR. The standard form, as investigators later learned, involves a £2,500 application fee, a 90-day review period, and mandatory consultation with Historic Environment Scotland. Tom never filed it. When the email chain went public on April 23, the tabloids exploded. The Sun ran a full front page, and said "No, Camilla did it anyway." The Daily Mail countered with Queen Consort's office innocent, this was Tom's project. But public sentiment crystallized around a single hashtag Team, and began trending within 2 hours and reached 1.2 million tweets by midnight. Then came the witness who changed the narrative. Margaret Dunwoody, 67, retired Balmoral housemaid, 1978 to 2005, came forward through a Glasgow solicitor. Her statement, sworn and notarized, claimed she overheard a conversation in the castle's library on January 15, 3 weeks before Camilla's office emailed Anne. Dunwoody's account: I was dusting the west shelves. The door was half open. King Charles was on the phone. He said, and I remember exactly because I nearly dropped my polish, let the boy do his thing. It's good PR. The estate needs modernizing. Then he laughed and said, just don't tell Anne. She'll have a fit. When asked if she was certain the voice was Charles, Dunwoody replied, I polished his nursery as a girl. I know that voice. Buckingham Palace issued a swift denial. The king has no recollection of any such conversation. The suggestion that His Majesty would authorize circumventing estate rules is categorically false. But Dunwoody passed a polygraph examination administered by a former Metropolitan Police forensic psychologist. The results, while not court admissible, were leaked to The Guardian. No deception indicated on all relevant questions. Tom's legal team, led by high-profile barrister Eleanor Foskett, did not waste time defending the shoot. Instead, they went on the offensive. On April 28, they filed a motion titled Selective Enforcement, Prior Commercial Activity by the Complainant. The motion cited a 2019 partnership between Princess and the Scottish tweed brand Highland Heritage Company, during which a commercial photo shoot was conducted at Balmoral's East Lawn, a designated heritage space requiring the same unanimous consent as the Bothy. The motion included a signed contract between Anne's office and Highland Heritage, dated March 12, 2019. A location release form listing Balmoral Castle, East Lawn, Heritage Category B. Photographic proof of the shoot, and posing in a tweed jacket, holding a pair of binoculars, with the castle fully visible in the background. Anne's camp responded that the shoot was a charitable event benefiting the Scottish Rural College, and that all profits went to a scholarship fund. But the contract told a different story. Highland Heritage paid a £15,000 location fee to a private company called Gatcombe Ventures Ltd, a firm owned entirely by Princess Anne. The fee was not disclosed as charitable income in that year's royal accounts. Foskett stood before the court on May 2 and delivered a devastating line: "My client is not asking for special treatment. He is asking for equal treatment. If the Princess Royal can profit from Balmoral without unanimous consent, so can Tom Parker Bowles." Judge Alastair McTavish, a veteran of Scottish property law, took 3 days to deliberate. His interim ruling, issued on May 5, shocked both sides. The court would unseal Ann's 2019 contract in full, along with all internal correspondence related to the Highland Heritage shoot. But McTavish added a cryptic footnote that sent legal analysts scrambling. Before ruling on the selective enforcement claim, the court must examine a third set of documents unrelated to either party that has been submitted anonymously to the clerk's office. These documents pertain to the Bothy safe and may materially affect the interpretation of Section 14, subsection 3. A closed hearing will be scheduled. No one knew what the Bothy safe meant. Not the press. Not Ann's lawyers. Not Tom's team. But a former Balmoral estate worker, speaking on condition of absolute anonymity, told this producer, the Bothy wasn't just a shelter. In the 1990s, it was used as a private storage space for certain members of the household. Things were kept there that were never inventoried. And found them during her walkthrough on April 14. What she found, that's the real reason she's pushing this case so hard. It's not about trespass. It's about what Tom almost exposed. At 3 a.m. on May 4, a manila envelope appeared on the judge's desk. No security log showed anyone entering the building. No cameras captured its delivery. Inside were 7 color photographs and a handwritten note. The safe was empty when Tom's crew arrived. But Ann doesn't believe that. Ask where the contents went. Ask who moved them the night before. The photographs show the interior of the Bothy's safe, a small, fireproof box bolted to the stone floor. The safe door is open. Inside, nothing except a single velvet pouch, empty, and a piece of paper with 3 handwritten initials. Those initials have not been publicly identified. But a royal historian consulted by this production noted that the Queen Mother's private secretary, Sir Charles Francis Brooke, used exactly those initials on personal correspondence. Sir Charles died in 2009. The Bothy safe's contents remain sealed by court order. But one thing is certain, this case is no longer about a picnic photo shoot. Lena Odegaard did not set out to become a royal scandal star witness. The 41-year-old architectural photographer from Tromsø had booked a week in the Scottish Highlands for a single purpose: to capture the autumn heather in early morning light. Her DJI Mavic 3 drone, equipped with a 4K Hasselblad camera, was her professional tool and, she would later discover, her liability. On the morning of April 14, Lena woke at 4:30 a.m., checked the wind forecast, and drove her rental Renault to a pull-off on the B976, approximately 1.8 miles southeast of Balmoral's North Gate. Her target was the famous sunrise over Loch Nagarth shot, a landscape composition she had scouted the previous afternoon. At 5:55 a.m., she launched the drone. "I was focused entirely on the mountain," Lena told investigators in a sworn deposition. "I didn't even notice the vehicles at first. The Bothy is small, tucked into the trees. It wasn't until I reviewed the footage back at my hotel that I saw people moving." That review would not happen for another 10 days after the news broke about Princess Anne's legal action. But when Lena finally looked at her memory card, she found 47 seconds of footage that forensic analysts now call the most damning visual evidence in the case. The footage, authenticated by independent forensic video analyst Marcus Thorne, former Metropolitan Police Digital Media Unit, is stable, well-lit, and chronologically continuous. It shows the following sequence: timestamp 6 hours 31 minutes and 22 seconds to 6:32 and 9 seconds a.m. 6 hours 31 minutes and 22 seconds, a black Range Rover, license plate partially visible, later traced to a hire company used by Camilla's household, is parked 15 meters from the Bothy door. The catering truck is visible in the background. 6 hours 31 minutes and 31 seconds, Tom Parker Bowles exits the Range Rover's passenger side. He is wearing a dark green waxed jacket, brown boots, and carries a rolled document in his right hand, cream-colored paper, sealed with a red ribbon. 6 hours 31 minutes and 44 seconds, Craig Morrison, the junior groundsman, approaches from the tree line. He is not in uniform. He is wearing a gray hoodie and jeans. His hands are empty. 6 hours 31 minutes and 52 seconds, Parker Bowles hands the rolled document to Morrison. Morrison accepts it with both hands, nods, and tucks it inside his hoodie's front pocket. 6 hours 32 minutes and 1 second, Morrison produces a physical key, brass, old style, not an electronic fob, from his jeans pocket. He walks to the north gate, partially visible on the left edge of the frame, and inserts the key. 6 hours 32 minutes and 7 seconds, the gate opens. Morrison gestures for Parker Bowles to enter first. Parker Bowles pauses, turns back toward the Range Rover, and says something inaudible to someone inside the vehicle. 6 hours 32 minutes and 9 seconds, the drone's battery warning appears. Lena manually steers the aircraft upward and away. The footage ends. The key detail, Thorne explained, is the handoff of the document. That's not a casual exchange. The ribbon suggests something formal, a contract, a letter of authorization, or something else entirely. And Morrison's body language, two-handed acceptance, nod, immediate pocketing, indicates he knew exactly what he was receiving and that it wasn't meant to be seen. What Lena did not know, until police enhanced the footage 3 weeks later, was that her drone's onboard microphone had captured ambient sound despite the distance and wind. Using spectral noise reduction and directional audio filtering, forensic analysts isolated a 12-second exchange that has become the case's most explosive audio evidence. The exchange occurs between 6 hours 31 minutes and 55 seconds and 6 hours 32 minutes and 7 seconds, as Morrison is walking toward the gate. Parker Bowles is standing near the Range Rover's rear passenger door. The window is rolled down approximately 2 inches. Male voice from inside vehicle, filtered if ends people ask, we never entered through that gate. Parker Bowles, turning toward window, they won't ask. Male voice, they always ask. Just say the south track. We'll backdate the log. Parker Bowles, laughing fine. South track. Happy? Male voice, don't make me call her again. The male voice has not been definitively identified. Voice recognition experts hired by this production compared it against 3 potential candidates, a senior Royal Protection Command officer, a longtime aide to Camilla, and an estate manager who resigned in 2022. None were conclusive matches. However, the phrase, don't make me call her again, prompted a separate line of inquiry, who is her? And's legal team believes the reference is to Camilla. Tom's lawyers argue it could refer to any number of female staff members. The judge has ordered the original audio file preserved for a forensic linguist to be appointed by the court. Lena's footage captured something else, a second vehicle arriving at 6:38 a.m., after the drone had landed. The gray Audi A8 with diplomatic plates appears in the far background of a later photograph Lena took with her DSLR. She had switched to still photography by that point. The plates were traced to a vehicle assigned to the Royal Protection Command's Household Support Unit, a small fleet used for transporting senior royals and their immediate staff. The driver was identified as a 15-year veteran protection officer whose name remains under court seal. What is known, the officer entered the Bothy area at 6:38 a.m., spoke with Parker Bowles for approximately 4 minutes, then drove toward the south gate. When investigators attempted to interview him, they were informed that he had been reassigned to non-public duties and was unavailable for comment. A subsequent letter from the Metropolitan Police stated that the officer invoked his right against self-incrimination and would not be testifying. Legal analyst Miriam Chowdhury explained the significance. A protection officer taking the fifth or the Scottish equivalent in a civil trespass case is extraordinary. It suggests criminal exposure. Either he knew the shoot was unauthorized and facilitated it anyway, or he was ordered to be there by someone who didn't want a paper trail. On May 12, 8 days after Lena's footage became known to the court, she received a letter at her Tromsø address. The envelope bore no return address but was postmarked from London's SW1A district, the postal code for Buckingham Palace and Clarence House. The letter, written on the letterhead of a private security firm called Corvus Risk Solutions Limited, demanded that Lena cease all distribution, publication, or discussion of the drone footage and surrender all original files and copies to a London-based solicitor. It cited the Data Protection Act 2018 and intellectual property rights of the occupants depicted. Lena refused. Her Norwegian attorney filed a response stating that the footage was lawfully obtained in public airspace, the drone never flew above 90 meters or within 50 meters of any person, and that the demand constituted intimidation of a witness. When the story leaked to the Bergens Tidende newspaper, the backlash was immediate. Norwegian Foreign Ministry officials privately expressed concern to their UK counterparts. The hashtag #LetLenaFilm trended in Oslo. And a crowdfunding campaign raised £47,000 for Lena's legal defense within 72 hours. But the most chilling development came 3 days after the cease and desist. Lena reported to police that someone had entered her flat while she was away. Nothing was stolen. But her backup hard drives containing copies of the drone footage had been removed from a locked drawer. The lock showed no signs of forced entry. Lena's building manager provided CCTV footage from the hallway outside her flat. It shows a figure in a dark coat and baseball cap entering the building at 2:17 a.m., using a key fob that the manager later admitted was duplicated without authorization by a former tenant. The figure's face is obscured, but the gait analysis conducted by a former Metropolitan Police investigator suggests a person with military or formal protection training, shoulders squared, stride measured, hands never leaving the pockets. The figure exited at 2:34 a.m., carrying a small duffel bag. Lena has since relocated to an undisclosed location in Norway. She told this producer in a secure messaging exchange, "I'm not afraid of the footage. I'm afraid of what it proves. Someone very powerful wanted that shoot to happen. And someone very powerful wants me to disappear from this case." She added one final line before going offline, "Ask the protection officer about the call he made at 6:41 a.m. I heard him say it's done." The question is, what was done? The protection officer's phone records are now subject to a court order. But his mobile device was reported lost on May 15th, 3 days after the order was issued. At 10:17 p.m. on April 15, Craig Morrison walked into Aberdeen railway station. He wore a black hoodie zipped to the chin, dark sunglasses, notable for 10 p.m., and carried a single olive green duffel bag. He purchased a one-way ticket to London King's Cross. He paid in cash. He asked for a seat away from the windows. The station's CCTV captured him boarding the 10:34 p.m. ScotRail sleeper service. He did not check a bag. He did not buy food or drink. He did not use his phone after 8 p.m. that evening. He never arrived in London. When the train pulled into King's Cross at 7:52 a.m. on April 16, carriage D, seat 14 was empty. The duffel bag was gone. The seat showed signs of recent occupancy, a faint impression on the cushion, a discarded water bottle in the seat back pocket. But Craig Morrison had vanished somewhere between Aberdeen and the English border. British Transport Police reviewed onboard CCTV. The cameras in carriage D malfunctioned at 11:03 p.m., 1 minute after the train departed Aberdeen. A technical investigation later revealed that the camera system had been manually disconnected using a tool that left specific torque markings, consistent with a standard multi-tool. The manufacturer's representative testified, this was not a fault. Someone knew exactly which wire to pull. Sarah McKinney, 32, a dental hygienist from Balliter, had been engaged to Craig Morrison for 14 months. She described him in a tearful, 7-hour police interview as quiet, loyal, a bit simple, not the kind of person who lies. But Sarah knew something was wrong weeks before the shoot. In early March, she told investigators, Morrison came home from work different. He was distracted. He checked his phone constantly. He started sleeping in the spare bedroom. When she asked what was wrong, he said only, "Someone made me an offer. I'm trying to figure out if it's real." On March 17, she saw a letter on the kitchen table. She only caught fragments before Morrison snatched it away. Confidential written in red across the top, a London return address, and a figure, £25,000. I asked him if he was in trouble, Sarah said. He said, no. But I could be in money. Then he burned the letter in the garden fire pit. Sarah did not report any of this at the time because, she admitted, I thought it was a bonus. Craig worked so hard. I thought someone finally noticed him. The police traced the burned letter's remnants. Forensic document examiner Patricia Okonkwo reconstructed approximately 40% of the text using infrared reflectography. The fragments revealed the following partial sentences. In consideration for access coordination, no liability for any unforeseen, third party shall not disclose, £25,000 upon completion, additional £25,000 upon. The letter was never signed. The sender's letterhead was too damaged to identify. But the phrasing, access coordination, mirrored language found in a draft contract later discovered on Morrison's work computer, which he had accessed at 2:15 a.m. on April 13, the night before the shoot. Morrison's estate-issued laptop was recovered from his locker at Balmoral. It contained 3 files of interest. File 1, gate_map.pdf, a detailed diagram of Balmoral's north gate locking mechanism, including annotations in Morrison's handwriting, main key, box 4/override key, box 7/Bothy safe key, not my area. File 2, payment_schedule.xlsx, a spreadsheet with 2 rows. Row 1, deposit, £25,000, paid March 22, reference #BB0422. Row 2, final, £25,000, upon no questions, reference #BB0422. The bank account details were encrypted, but metadata showed the file was created on a device with a hostname traced to a shell company registered in the British Virgin Islands. File 3, voice_memo_April13.m4a, a 47-second audio recording made on Morrison's phone at 1:58 a.m., 2 days before the shoot. His voice is strained, whispering. If anyone finds this, I didn't want to do it. But they said they'd fix Mum's care home bills. She doesn't have long. And Tom seemed nice. He said no one would get in trouble. Just open the gate, hand over the key, take the money. But unscares me. She checks everything. I should say no. No, I can't. I can't go back to the old life. Okay. Delete this. Delete this now. The recording was not deleted. Morrison's phone, however, has never been found. On May 18, 5 weeks after Morrison disappeared, Sarah McKinney received an envelope slipped under her front door. No postmark. No return address. No fingerprints. The envelope had been handled with gloves. Inside, a cashier's cheque for £50,000, drawn on a Edinburgh branch of the Bank of Scotland, payable to Sarah McKinney. The memo line read, Craig's share, final. Sarah did not cash it. She handed it to police within 2 hours. The issuing bank traced the cheque to a corporate account held by Highland Commercial Services Limited, a company that had been dissolved in 2021. The account should have been closed. Someone reopened it on May 15, 3 days before the cheque was cut using forged identification documents. The company's former director, a 78-year-old retired accountant named Gerald Pringle, told investigators he dissolved the company after his partner died. I haven't signed a cheque for HCS in 4 years, he said. Someone stole our old letterhead. Pringle passed a polygraph. He was ruled out as a suspect. But the check's paper trail led nowhere. A dead company, a reopened account, a signature that matched Pringle's but was determined by a handwriting expert to be a very sophisticated forgery. On June 2, a routine passport alert flagged Morrison's name. He had used his British passport to board a flight from London Heathrow to Auckland, New Zealand on April 17, the day after his train disappeared. The flight departed at 9:15 p.m. Morrison was seated in business class. He paid for the £3,400 ticket with a credit card issued to a name that did not match his. The card belonged to a 72-year-old woman in Kent who reported it stolen 3 weeks earlier but didn't think it was important. Morrison arrived in Auckland on April 19. He cleared customs. He was captured on CCTV exiting the international terminal and walking toward the bus depot. Then nothing. No further travel records. No rental car. No hotel booking. No phone signal. Until July 15. Property records obtained by this production show that a Craig Morrison purchased a 12-hectare sheep farm near Piopio, on New Zealand's North Island, for $890,000 New Zealand dollars, approximately £425,000. The transaction closed on July 10. The deed was signed electronically. The funds came from a New Zealand bank account opened on April 25 with a cash deposit of £430,000 converted from a British bank transfer traced to the same dissolved company that issued Sarah's check. The farm's previous owner, a retiring sheep shearer named Bill Haraki, described the buyer as a quiet Scottish bloke, kept his head up, paid cash. Didn't want his picture taken. Said he was starting over. I didn't ask questions. Not my business. When reached by phone, Morrison's new neighbor, Margaret Karina, said, he keeps to himself. We see him in the village once a week for supplies. He looks nervous all the time. Once I said, you all right, love? He said, just waiting for someone to find me. Then he walked away. Morrison has not responded to multiple interview requests. Sarah McKinney made a startling revelation in a recent interview with this producer. She said that Craig kept a handwritten diary, not digital, not on his phone, but a physical notebook that he hid somewhere in the bothy. He told me about it 2 weeks before he disappeared, Sarah said. He said, if anything happens to me, look under the loose stone behind the safe. I wrote everything down. Names. Dates. Who told me to do what? What they promised. What they threatened. Sarah reported this to police on June 20. A search of the bothy on June 22 found no diary. But forensic investigators noted that a section of the stone floor behind the safe appeared to have been recently disturbed, the mortar was wetter than surrounding areas, and tool marks indicated a flat-headed implement had been used to pry up a stone approximately 30 centimeters square. The stone was in place. The space beneath was empty. But a single torn page was found lodged between the safe and the wall. On it, in Morrison's handwriting. April 13, they said don't worry about Anne. They said the king already approved. Then why did they call me at 2 a.m.? Why did he say, if anyone asks, Craig took the money and ran? I'm not a criminal. I just wanted to help Mum. I'm going to write it all down. The bothy is the only place she never checks. If you're reading this, I'm sorry. I should have said no. Look for the blue folder. It's with the sentence ends mid-word. The page is torn, raggedly ripped, not cut. No blue folder has been found. Sarah has not slept through the night since April. On June 28, Courtroom 4 of the Edinburgh Sheriff Court filled beyond capacity. Journalists from 17 countries. Royal watchers with notebooks. Legal scholars dissecting every gesture. And in the front row, separated by 2 empty seats, Princess Anne and Tom Parker Bowles sat 30 feet apart, neither looking at the other. The charge, civil trespass and unauthorized commercial use of a designated heritage space. Maximum penalty, £100,000 fine and a prohibition order against future commercial activity at any royal estate for 5 years. And arrived at 9:47 a.m., 3 minutes early, wearing a navy blazer and her signature no-nonsense expression. She did not speak to reporters. She did not wave. She sat, opened a leather-bound folder, and began reading. Tom arrived at 9:58 a.m., escorted by his barrister Eleanor Foskett. He looked pale. His hands trembled slightly as he set down a black satchel. He whispered something to Foskett, who nodded and placed a reassuring hand on his arm. Judge Alastair McTavish entered at 10 a.m. sharp. He adjusted his glasses, surveyed the packed gallery, and delivered his first words: "This is a property dispute. Let no one forget that. The law does not care about titles. It cares about evidence." Anne's legal team, led by Sir Hector Drummond, former Advocate General for Scotland, presented a devastating, 3-hour opening statement built on 4 pillars. Pillar 1, the gate log. Exhibit A showed no authorized entry for Tom Parker Bowles. The manual override performed at 5:52 a.m. was executed with a key fob assigned to Craig Morrison, who had no authority to grant access. This was not a misunderstanding, Drummond told the court. This was a deliberate circumvention of a locked gate, using a stolen key, at dawn. Pillar 2, the drone footage. Lena Odegaard's video, played in full for the first time, drew audible gasps from the gallery. The handoff of the rolled document. The physical key. The whispered exchange. Drummond froze the frame at 6 hours 32 minutes and 1 second and said, "That is a man receiving something of value in exchange for illegal access. That is conspiracy, not confusion." Pillar 3, the email chain. Camilla's February 3 request and Anne's refusal were projected onto a large screen. The Princess Royal said no. Explicitly. In writing. And yet the shoot proceeded. Why? Because someone decided that no did not apply to them. Pillar 4, the King's alleged approval. Margaret Dunwoody testified via video link from her Glasgow flat. Her voice cracked as she repeated what she heard: "Let the boy do his thing. Just don't tell Anne." Under cross-examination, she did not waver. When Foskett asked if she could be mistaken about the date, Dunwoody replied, "I remember because I'd just polished the shelf where the photo of Diana used to sit. That photo had been moved the week before. It upset me. So yes. I remember." The King's denial remained on the record, but Dunwoody's polygraph results, while not evidence, had already shaped public opinion. Foskett did not argue that the shoot happened. She argued that it should not matter. Her defense rested on 3 points. Point 1, selective enforcement, the 2019 Highland Heritage photo shoot. Anne's £15,000 location fee. The lack of unanimous consent. The Princess Royal, Foskett said, has done exactly what she accuses my client of doing. The only difference is that she was not caught at the time. Point 2, no harm, no heather was trampled. No artifacts were damaged. No security was breached, the crew was visible, non-threatening, and left within hours. This is a dispute about paperwork, not patrimony. Point 3, good faith, Tom Parker Bowles took the stand. His testimony was brief and, to many observers, unconvincing. "I was told by members of my family that it was approved. I did not know about the unanimous consent rule. I made a mistake, and I am sorry." When asked who specifically told him it was approved, he paused for 7 seconds, an eternity in a courtroom, and said, "I don't recall." The gallery murmured. Drummond rose for redirect. "You don't recall which member of your family gave you permission to break the law?" Tom's face reddened. "I recall that I trusted them," he said. "And I recall that I was wrong." On July 2, the court convened in secret. No press. No gallery. Only the judge, both legal teams, and 2 court-appointed special masters. The subject, the Bothy safe and the anonymous submission that had appeared on the judge's desk weeks earlier. What was discussed remains partially sealed. But a leaked summary, verified by 3 sources with knowledge of the proceedings, revealed the following. The Bothy safe, when opened by Princess and on April 14, contained a velvet pouch and a handwritten note. The note listed 3 sets of initials, dates ranging from 2002 to 2019, and the words "for services rendered." The velvet pouch contained 3 small, uncut gemstones, sapphires, according to a preliminary analysis. The initials corresponded to 3 individuals: a foreign diplomat, deceased, a former royal aide, living, now retired abroad, and a member of the extended royal family whose name has been redacted from all public documents. The anonymous submission to the judge included photographs of the safe's contents, photographs that someone had taken before and arrived. That meant someone knew what was in the safe, photographed it, and then either removed the contents or allowed them to remain for and to find. The judge ordered the safe's contents transferred to the Crown Office for further review. He also ordered that the anonymous submission be investigated as potential evidence of a separate crime, theft of royal property. What was stolen? The velvet pouch's inventory log, a document that should have been inside the safe but was not. On July 10, Judge McTavish delivered his ruling. The courtroom was silent as he read. On the charge of civil trespass, guilty. The respondent, Thomas Henry Parker Bowles, did knowingly enter and permit commercial activity upon land designated as a Category Z heritage space without the unanimous written consent required under the 1985 Estate Management Act. On the charge of unauthorized commercial use, guilty. The respondent conducted a for-profit photo shoot for the brand Balmoral Bites on protected property, generating promotional material of direct commercial value. Fine, £85,000. Costs, £12,400 to be paid to the Balmoral estate for security and administrative expenses. Prohibition order. The respondent is barred from any commercial activity on any royal estate for a period of 3 years. Tom Parker Bowles did not react. He stared straight ahead. Foskett placed a hand on his shoulder. Then the judge continued. The court takes no position on the allegations of selective enforcement raised by the defense. That matter is civil, not criminal, and falls outside the scope of this proceeding. However, the court refers the matter of the Bothy safe and its contents to the Procurator Fiscal for potential investigation into unrelated matters. Ann's team did not celebrate. They packed their folders and left. Within hours, Tom Parker Bowles issued a statement, "I accept the court's ruling. I regret the confusion and any distress caused. I will pay the fine and move forward." Princess Anne issued a one-line statement through her office, "The law applies to all." But the real story was just beginning. On July 15, a Freedom of Information request forced the release of Balmoral's Special Access Log from 2000 to 2023. It revealed 17 instances where Camilla's relatives or staff accessed restricted areas without prior approval, including a 2005 stay by Camilla's daughter, Laura Lopez, in a cottage marked "Repair Only," and a 2012 visit by Tom Parker Bowles himself to the same Bothy, logged as unauthorized but never pursued. And had flagged each violation. Each time, she was overruled by Charles. The public reaction was swift and brutal. A petition calling for a parliamentary review of royal property rules gained 1.2 million signatures in 72 hours. Republican groups held protests outside Buckingham Palace. #Team Anne became a permanent fixture in British political discourse. 3 weeks after the verdict, this producer received an envelope postmarked from Edinburgh, handwritten address, "No return." Inside, a single sheet of unmarked paper, typed in a generic font. The real crime wasn't the photo shoot. It was what Anne found in the Bothy's floorboards after the safe was emptied. The velvet pouch was a decoy. The sapphires were a distraction. The diary, Craig Morrison's diary, was hidden beneath the loose stone. Someone removed it before Anne's team arrived. That someone knew exactly where to look. Ask Sarah McKinney about the phone call she received on April 13 at 2:17 a.m. The caller ID said Craig. It wasn't his voice. This producer reached out to Sarah McKinney. She initially refused to comment. After repeated requests, she sent a single text message. "I've said everything I'm going to say. Some doors should stay closed. Craig is gone. I have to live with that. Please don't call again." The phone call she received on April 13th, the night before the shoot, is now the subject of a separate investigation. British Telecom records confirm a call lasting 4 minutes and 12 seconds from Morrison's phone number to Sarah's phone. But voice analysis of a recording Sarah made, she recorded the call because, she later said, Craig sounded wrong, suggests the speaker was not Craig Morrison.